Welcome everybody. My name is Chloe Ballatori. I'm a relationship and communication expert. I'm a graduate of Princeton University and Pat Allen's Want Institute. You may have heard of Pat Allen. She's kind of famous in the LA County, Orange County area. She's been on Millionaire Matchmaker. She's been on Shaw's of Sunset. She's mostly in her retirement, but she mentored me. She mentored Patty Stanger. She mentored Marianne Williamson, among many others. So I use the tools that I learned from her, androgynous semantic realignment, which is the methodology that she created. And we'll get into what that means a little later. Don't be spooked by the terms. I use tools of transactional analysis, which was created by Eric Byrne. And I use tools that I've created myself because I've been doing this work for over a decade now. I'm also over 20 years married. So everything that I'm teaching you guys, I've also vetted myself. And all this work is based on proven psychological and scientific principles, which I will briefly describe. What's unique about this work are the tools to execute on those principles. And so that's what I will focus on, but I do want to just go over the scholarship behind those tools. Um, okay. So when we talk about relationships, and especially about successful relationships, we're talking about a balance of yin and yang energy, also known as complementary energy. We don't necessarily seek strict equality in our romantic relationships. Rather, we seek equity, which acknowledges the differences between men and women. Okay. And it is this balance between feminine and masculine energy in our relationships and within ourselves, because all of us are both feminine and masculine, that literally gives rise to consciousness and accelerates our psychological and spiritual growth. And this is the work of Carl Jung. He literally defines consciousness as that balance between feminine and masculine, also known as yin and yang energy. Okay. What is feminine and masculine? There's a lot of misunderstanding about that, what that means. Feminine energy. All of us have two hemispheres in our brain. We have the right hemisphere, which is the seat of feelings, which is passive, patient, vulnerable, which is receiving energy. This is the energy of spirituality, sensuality, sexuality. It is the energy of magic, creativity, receiving. Um, it this is feminine, okay? Nonlinear thinking. On the other side of our brain, we have the left hemisphere, and this is the linear thinking. This is competitive, conquering, controlling. Masculine energy is very much of the world, where feminine energy is in the world to make it fun, but it's not of the world. So, masculine energy is doing, achieving, taking care of, giving. Um, Most of us are on our masculine at work, for example, because, we're competing, we're trying to excel, we're trying to achieve. These are all masculine attributes. One is not better than the other, okay? And everybody has a unique balance, and this balance often changes as you get older because women have drop offs in estrogen, which make us more masculine. Men have drop offs in testosterone, which makes them more feminine. So all of us have this balance. You may have different balances in your life, in your relationships. And that's when you think of the yin yang symbol, that's what's connoted by that kind of swoosh, right? Is basically the fluidity of those energies in your life. Um, Alphas are people who have a very strong masculine side and a very strong feminine side. Okay. Doesn't Alphas are leaders. That doesn't mean that they're dominating. That means that they're able to maintain a certain authority within themselves primarily. Okay. So this work really appeals to people who have a strong feminine side, have a strong masculine side, and are looking to balance those energies to lead more successful, satisfying, and fulfilling lives and have more fulfilling relationships. Now, often this energy follows along gender lines. So women want to be feminine, men want to be masculine. I'd say about 15 to 25% of the time it doesn't. So there's no shame in being a feminine man. There's no shame in being a masculine woman. Like I said earlier, all of us are both and all of us are in flux. But as long as the relationship is balanced, it will still work. Okay. Now, oftentimes, what happens is when we have childhood trauma, this balance that we have within ourselves, our authentic balance, gets thrown off by the contingencies of the moment. We have to stay on good terms with the people who own the refrigerator. And so we have to attach to them often at the cost of our authenticity as children, because human children are super dependent, right? And so these things that happen to us between the ages of 0 and 12, which are critical developmental windows, these things have a greater effect or a greater valence on us than anything that happens later in life, simply because of the timing in which they occur. And now this is Freud's work. He was right about some things, he was wrong about some things. He's right about this. So from 0 to 12, this is when we have most of our critical developmental windows. Now the problem occurs when we develop what are coping strategies of the moment and we believe they are existential truths. And then we take these strategies into our adult lives, and specifically they end up in our romantic and most intimate relationships. And we try to apply them there. And that's when we run into trouble, and we often find that we're sabotaging ourselves. And it really, really often looks like using your masculine side when you should be using your feminine side, and using your feminine side when you should be using your masculine side. And by should be, I mean when it would behoove you the most, when it is in your best interests. This is called ego dystonia, and I'm not going to get too into detail on that right now. I teach this work several times a year, and that's where we really get into the weeds on some of these things. And I go through the books. I've written 4 books on this work. So here, I'll put that into the chat right now. So those are the module packages if you want to sign up for those, and we'll probably be starting our next round in a month or so. So the problem occurs when we take those strategies into our adult lives, and when we exhibit ego dystonia in our relationships, because that's what ends up sabotaging us. So I help people a lot understanding their patterns, and also bringing awareness to them and then changing their patterns. The first step is bringing the awareness. The second step is doing the changing. The changing part is painful, even though it's changed for the better. And so a lot of people don't anticipate that. So that's something that I work with people on. Um, when we talk about the the dystonic archetypes, I like to use Wendy and Peter Pan. And so in that situation, you have Wendy, who is precociously related. She's over masculinized. She's taking responsibility. She's acting like a mother at a very young age, right? And she's not getting what she wants. And similarly, we have Peter Pan, who is in the ego dystonic feminine, won't take responsibility, won't grow up, won't become a man. And he, and will never mature and have that experience. So those are kind of the basic archetypes of what it means to be ego dystonic or precociously related. If you don't understand everything that I've said, that's absolutely fine. We are going to understand it further through repetition and also through your questions. So I want to open it up for questions now. You guys can ask me, anything. I also like to hear your updates. Obviously, my specialty is dating and relationships, but this work is based on principles of truth, which means that it applies globally. So I help people with communication. I help people with family problems. I help people with the relationship with self. Um, so it really, these principles, when applied, they really, the effects of it really radiate through the whole of your life. And that's one of the things that I really love about this work. And that makes it different from traditional therapy because you actually see changes. It's not just about talking and hearing affirmative noises from the other person, which is nice, but it doesn't affect change in your life. Okay. So you can put your question in the chat. You can put it, okay. Oh, and I have a question that I want to answer that I got messaged on Meetup as well. So yeah, raise your hand or put your question in the chat. Okay, so this question from Lee. Hi, Chloe. What do you think about long distance relationships? Can they work? Are they realistic? Perhaps some help defining what long distance means. Thanks. Okay. So long distance relationships absolutely can work. But there needs to be, both people need to be vigilant about making and keeping commitments with one another. Recently, a lot of people have been adopting what's known as the 2 week rule, meaning that they don't let more than 2 weeks go by without seeing each other. And I think that that is a good increment of time and maybe a good marker to measure against. Not that everybody has to do 2 week rule, but that, around that amount of time is when it starts to become easier not to see the person. You miss them less. Um, and so doing the 2 weeks sort of helps out in that. You know, you don't fall off each other's radar as easily. The other thing about long distance relationships is, you have to be consistent. It helps to really have, times that you set up phone calls, that you set up trips to see each other, and also, long range plans. Like, how long is this long distance going to go on for? Um, Lee, yes.
Yes, thanks for that, answering that. So when you're saying 2 weeks, are you saying that they have a 2 week deal typically where they get together once every couple weeks if it's
Yes.
distance?
Yes.
That's unique to long distance, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yes. Or couples who, often have to be apart for work, right? Who have to
Right.
travel for work.
hmm I remember Pat Allen saying something about a story about two people that worked for the airlines as airline stewards, and they lived in different cities, but it worked.
hmm
They were able to define the terms, of course they could fly and see each other easily. But
Right.
so once every couple weeks, as long as you called it a understanding or an agreement or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's about what you can negotiate, so go for what you want and then see what the other person is open to doing. I mean, I think every 2 weeks is definitely a good barometer. If you can't see each other every 2 weeks, try to make it at least once a month. And then, a lot of long distance couples that I work with, they'll have certain other rituals or protocols, like we talk before bed every night, we FaceTime, um, or we
Right.
FaceTime first thing in the morning, or, whatever it is. If I can't get a hold of him and it's an emergency, I'll send him this text or, whatever. So it's kind of, in some ways, when it does work, it forms the basis of a good relationship because you've already had to negotiate the parameters of the long distance. So negotiating other things in the relationship might be a little easier because you already have that foundation. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
It does.
Okay.
What about distance itself? Is that like for me? I mean, I live in LA County.
Right.
So, for me to meet a woman in San Luis Obispo County or Orange County is long distance to me. I mean, that's a lot farther. Even parts of LA County itself are really far apart.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what kind of an appetite you have for driving. I recently had
Yeah.
a client who lives in San Fernando Valley and was dating a guy in Newport Beach, and she decided it was too far, you know,
Hmm.
because it's what, an hour drive.
So
Um,
if you have appetite for driving or even flying, if it's
yeah,
far enough away.
yeah,
So I guess it sounds like it's really just up to it's a case by case thing.
yeah.
I I have consciously avoided long distance because it's just so hard. And, I want to see people day to day more than just once
Well,
every
then
couple
it
of weeks.
might not be right for you, unless you could do long distance, like in the short term, different people want different things. I have clients who are happy just seeing their person on the weekend. And I obviously have people who live with their person and see them every day, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, right. Okay. Well,
Okay.
I'll keep that in mind. So 2 weeks is good. That's the reason why my last one didn't. That time frame was just not. It was too not frequent enough
It
for
was too
me.
long. Yeah.
Too long of a time. So when you said that, I got to thinking. But anyway, thank you very much for
Yeah.
that.
And that you're welcome. And that does, it gives them less of opportunity to get lonely and then stray. I see this comment from Jack that, yeah, that is a danger in long distance relationships. But again, you really look to see if they're showing up when they say, if they're keeping commitments, these are the signs. If their words and deeds are lining up. Okay. From Zoom
Chloe,
user.
Chloe,
Yes.
Chloe, Jack actually put a question earlier in the chat about,
Oh, I didn't see that.
yeah, go back.
Okay. Okay. What's your question, Jack? Do you want to ask? Okay, maybe. I'm not seeing an actual question, just that he said that he had a long distance relationship, but the girl cheated on him. Okay. Okay, well, raise your hand if you are ready to unmute or you want to ask your
Uh,
question.
his question was, how do I know if I'm an alpha? That was his question in the chat.
Oh, okay. It's not in my chat, so that must have been just to you. Okay, so an alpha is somebody who has you don't really need to know, but uh, if you have a strong feminine side and a strong masculine side, that means do your heart and your head often argue with one another? Um, do you often have those kinds of dilemmas? Um, that's really what makes you an alpha. Alphas are really born. It's not really something you can become. Um, I hope that makes sense. Here, do you want to add to that? No? Okay. Well, there's more about that also in my first book, which is How to Live, Find Love, and Keep It. Oh, there you are. Okay, Jack, did you want to say add to that? Does that make sense?
No. So can you repeat that? Because I was outside. I mean, not outside. Like I stepped out of the room.
Oh, okay. So an alpha is somebody that has a very strong feminine side and a very strong masculine side. And so often alphas have arguments between their heart and their head. They have a dilemma, right? Um, if that is you, then you might be an alpha. Um,
Okay.
okay. And there's more about that in my book, which is How to Live, Find Love, and Keep It. That's on Amazon.
Yeah.
All my books are on Amazon. But I think you'll also learn more about it just listening. But that's basically what it means. It means that they both sides of your personality are strong, and so sometimes it can be confusing as to which side to lead with. You lead with
Okay.
your emotional side, you lead with your intellectual side, you know.
Yeah.
But your heart wants one thing, your head wants another. If you have those kinds of dilemmas, you're often an alpha. And so,
Oh, I see.
the downside is you have like more confusion, but the upside is you also have more information. And so if you have more information and you're able to understand that information and navigate your way through it, then you have an edge. And the tools that I teach really help you to do that.
Okay.
Do you
Thank
have,
you.
you're welcome. Do you have another question or is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I'm gonna do the Zoom user one. How long should one date before a guy should commit? I'm looking for a husband. Okay. So there's no set time. You know, some people go on a first date and they commit that night. Um, do you want to add to your question? Are you wondering like how much of a
Hi.
hi?
Hi, my name is Anna. How are you?
Good, thank you. So how can I help you, Anna? You're wondering how long you should wait for a commitment from a guy?
Yeah, I haven't dated for a long time, maybe over 12 years.
Okay.
And so I don't want just to date. I want to date with a purpose. So, but yeah, it's just, I guess it's a process.
Yeah, it is a process. Um, you know, like I said, there's no set answer, but I think in your case, you know, it's important to let people know pretty early on that, you know, you're looking for a husband, you're looking for a commitment, you know.
Right,
Not the first date, but within the first 3 dates.
right.
You know, I recommend you give anybody at least 3 dates because sometimes it can take that amount of time for the chemistry to ignite. People get nervous on first dates. Um, so I recommend you give each person that you're dating like at least 3 dates.
And also another question. I don't
Mhm.
want to online date, so I
Mhm.
want to meet people in person. What would you recommend? What is the best place to go
Okay.
out and meet people, not online or bars?
Right. I completely agree that meeting in person is not only more fulfilling, but also more effective. So, okay, this is what I recommend to all my single clients, and it's called the 5 flirts. Now, first, I want to ask you, which energy are you in? Do you want your feelings respected, your feelings cherished in your relationship, or your thoughts respected? Everybody wants both, but what's more important to you?
I would say first one, probably.
Feelings cherished. Okay, so
Yes.
that's the feminine position. Okay, now here's the 5 flirts. You're going to be 4 days a week flirting in the course of your day on the hoof. So that means in action. If you're at the grocery store, if you're walking your dog, wherever you are, you see somebody that catches your fancy, you're going to give them 5 seconds of eye contact and smile at the same time. If they reach,
That
that's your signal that they can
that's
approach.
is that easy? For some people, it's probably easy. It's so hard
No,
for me.
it's hard. You're going to feel like crazy.
Right.
It's hard, but it will work.
5 seconds, you said?
1,000, 2, 1,000. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's your signal to a masculine energy person that they can approach. Now, 1 day a week, I want you to plant yourself somewhere for 45 minutes to an hour, and you're going to be doing that same thing, giving that eye contact and smile. But in this case, you'll be planted, so somebody could actually sit down and join you. You know,
Okay.
so you have a better chance. And if you keep going to the same spot, sometimes that works out well because people get to know you there. And, you know, in terms of picking your spot, you know, go somewhere where you like the look of the men there. Maybe it's a hotel bar, maybe it's the golf course, maybe it's the dog park. Maybe it's the Starbucks across the street from the firehouse, you know. You can play around with it a little bit, but go alone. Do that one once a week and you will meet people with this method. Now, just make sure that you're not the one to speak first because it's the masculine energy that speaks first. The caveat to that, the exception to that is if you're asking for help. So if you see someone you really like and they are not paying attention to you or they don't see you, you might decide to ask for help. Okay. Do you know where the
Right.
bathroom is? Can you help me carry this brick? Whatever it is.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's a difficult part is to smile.
yes. And eye contact is very intimate.
Right.
It's you will go through something. Like I'm telling you this stuff now and you know, you're hearing it and that's having an effect. But when you actually do it, you're going to go through something like a catharsis. Okay. Because when
Okay.
you do the eye contact, you're going to be making yourself vulnerable. And
Okay.
that's going to, and that's what you're kind of avoiding. And that's probably why you're not meeting anybody.
Probably. I mean, I have people looking at me, but I just have difficulty like keeping an eye contact and smiling.
Yeah.
I
Well, if you have someone looking at you and you like him, give him the eye contact and smile. Let him know he can come over and buy you a drink.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a
Try
good
that.
advice.
What?
That's a great advice. I have to practice that.
Yes, it is a matter of
Thank you.
practicing. It is a matter of gradual desensitization. Um, Sometimes people are like, I could only do the 3 seconds, or I only did the seated flirt, but try to do it and then come back and let me know how it goes. Okay.
Okay. And so smiling, how do you smile? Do you have to actually show your teeth or just like,
Try to make it a genuine smile.
okay, okay. That makes sense.
Okay. Good luck. I look forward to hearing your update.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Amy,
Hey Chloe, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you? How can I help you?
I'm good. Oh my gosh, that last lady, man, she's got a good sense of humor. I'm like chuckling over here. I have tears coming down my face. I was laughing so hard. She's got a good sense of humor. I like that. Okay, so you know how people just wanna, there's such in I can't even think of the word. I'm use a word, but I'm not sure if it's English correct. There's so many people inundated with, meeting on the dating apps. And I told you I can't stand the dating apps. But, you know, okay, Meetup. There's a guy that's supposedly in groups with me, but I don't know him from Adam. And he reached out to me back in 2021, right? COVID happened.
Mhm.
Big time COVID happened. So, I wasn't even thinking of date. I was an essential worker, so I had to work every day and it was just stressful and crazy. So then he reaches out to me like a year goes by. He reaches
Mhm.
out again just to see how I was doing, if I was looking for dates. And he said I was a very beautiful woman. And I told you I have no problem meeting guys, but in regards to, my looks, but I want something deep, like the Zoom user. I want, a mate, a lifetime partner. So I don't know what to do. I did, and then I was dating somebody. I told you that guy that I wrote the letter to.
Right.
So I broke up with him. So now he contacted me a couple days ago, and I just succumbed, and I said, "Hey, just curious, why do you want to meet me?" That's just like I just broke down because he keeps pursuing, which I like, yet he doesn't. I didn't answer him, so I guess I can't expect him to answer right away. But I'm just curious, what do you think about that?
What, that he's reaching out intermittently?
Yes.
I mean, he's testing you out. He's trying to see if you're still available.
Okay.
You know, um, do you like him?
I don't know. Picture could be, a bot, or it could be him. I don't know. I think we're in 4 mutual groups, but I haven't met him from Adam.
Okay. Well, if you're somewhat curious, you could draw him out a little bit. You know, you could ask him for help. You could ask him questions. Um,
Well, was that the wrong question to ask him when I finally broke down and replied? I
what?
mean, I don't know about a right or wrong answer, but I guess that wasn't the best initial response.
Wait, say it again? I'm confused.
Yeah. I mean, you said that I could ask for help or weed him out, or so I forgot where you.
Right.
But I just said, why do you want to get with me, or why do you want to meet me?
Right. And what did he say?
He hasn't answered yet.
Okay. So just forget that then.
Okay.
Just forget that. He's
Okay.
got to work a little harder. If it's a
It's funny
real
he did, but
person,
I was in a relationship, so I was like, okay. And
yeah,
now,
I mean, still.
and now he's checking in again to see if I'm available and wants to go on dates.
Right. But you have no idea who he is. Did you look at his Meetup profile?
Yes.
And what did you think?
Oh gosh, Chloe, I don't know. I used to be a pretty good vetter. I think he's legit, but who knows?
Right. Well, just see if he responds, you know?
Okay. Do
If
I
he
give him a time
responds,
frame? Since I didn't respond at all until now.
yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't worry about it,
Okay.
really. Um, if he wants to meet you, he will find a way to meet you.
Okay, that's true. That's true. If some guy really wants to, yeah, he will make it happen.
Yeah. I had a similar situation with a client today where she's in a relationship, and this guy like once a year reaches out to her and she's like, "What does it mean? What is it?" It's like he's just testing you. A lot of times they're just testing the waters. You know what I mean?
Okay. Seeing if it's safe to approach.
Yeah, and a lot of times, sometimes they will be trying to, you know, bait you into chasing them, for example.
Oh gosh.
You know.
Isn't that like a red flag that you don't even want to pursue that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't pay too much attention to it.
Okay. Great. Thank you for your insight.
You are welcome. Okay. Okay, I'm looking for now this question that we had from last week. So bear with me a moment. And some people are still having trouble finding the links for the meetings. You guys, the links should be there if you're logging in. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we got this question from last week. Okay. Do you think it's wrong to choose a man that I don't feel attracted to? We are 37, thinking seriously to get married and have kids. Growing up, seeing my parents always fighting, I know how hard it is to have a harsh husband. Excuse me. My boyfriend is not so much manly and a leader, but he's calm and very kind, taking care of family always. I'm hoping I'll find respect for him. My mom always told me passion disappears after 3 years of marriage. I hate to hear it, but now after many dates and relationships with attractive men not working, I started to think about settling. Okay. So there's a number of things that I wanted to address in this relatively short question, but there's a lot to it. Okay, so first of all, this is from Chiaki. First of all, Chiaki, you've only known him 8 months. So I don't recommend you get married to anyone until you've known them a year, because a good psychopath or sociopath can end up tricking you for that amount of time. Okay, so there's that. So that's the first part. Now, you don't find the man attractive. Now, this is where I wish you were here, because I would want to ask you what you mean by this. There is often crazy chemistry with people who fulfill our childhood scripts, and often that means pain addiction. You can still have chemistry with healthy, secure people, but it may not feel as intense as the chemistry you have with the people who fulfill your childhood scripts. And especially if you have unresolved trauma, that will be more so that you will be attracted to that kind of crazy chemistry. I almost never see people getting married to the person that was the best lay of their life. Okay. That's very unusual. Um, I do, obviously, for a successful relationship, I've said before, you need chemistry, compatibility, and communication. Chemistry is usually a gift from God. You either have it or you don't. Occasionally, it can grow. If you have no chemistry for this man, I don't think marrying him is a good idea. You have to have at least a modicum of chemistry for him. I like that he has these other qualities, and I like that you're looking at these other qualities, because it sounds like you want the same things, which means you're compatible. And if he's calm and he's kind, it sounds like the communication is decent. But I don't want you going into a relationship thinking that this is a second choice or that this is a settling. Okay. So that's what I would say about that. Consider it, continue to see him and see if, think about those three elements. Think about chemistry, compatibility, and communication, and think about if you have them. If you really don't, if you're really not attracted, then it's not really fair to get into a relationship. Okay. So I hope that is clear. Okay. Does anybody else have a question or an update? I did see people were having problems getting in, but hopefully that is resolved now. Here. Okay. Okay. Well, if you guys are all good, then I will wrap it up. You can, I'll put my credentials in one more time here. You can usually reach out to me during the week. If you have a quick question, I'll try to answer it. If not, we can set up a private. I work with men, I work with women, I work with couples, I work with teenagers. As I said at the top, I don't only do dating and relationships. Ultimately, all relationships are about relationship with self. So I do that. I've written several books on this work, which you can explore on Amazon. I do original content every day on Instagram and TikTok, which you can look into. And yeah. Okay, Lee, I think, hi.
Got one more question. I'm so glad
Yes.
you mentioned the TikTok thing.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I have a question about your TikTok.
Mhm.
Do you do it where you post to the TikTok first, and then the same thing is simultaneously posted on your YouTube, or do you do them separately? Or it's more of a technical question.
Oh, okay. So
Like
yeah, I have
the
content
posting schedule.
on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. And I usually do the same content, but I usually do one version for Instagram and one version for TikTok. And then I pick one of those, usually the TikTok, and then I disseminate that to the other three platforms.
So they will let you can, even if you post something on your YouTube, on your TikTok, you can post the same video on your YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Thanks.
knock
Just
yourself
curious.
out.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Kay, I wanted to give you a chance to talk if you wanted to. Because I think okay. No? Okay. Okay. Anna, you have three C's, but what if you have three C's, but in addition, the person triggers childhood trauma? Okay, very good question, Anna. Well, that means you're in the right spot. We always fall in love with our lesson, and our psyche is always trying to heal the trauma. And it does this through triggers, right? It does this through subconsciously, unconsciously seeking out people, scenarios, relationships that will substitute for those that you had as a child, in order to resolve them. So being triggered by your most intimate partner is absolutely normal, and in fact is an opportunity to heal. Always fall in love with our triggers. Yes. So, it's, most of the time when you're having fights with your partner and they get really, really crazy, it's because you guys have triggered each other into what's known as your childhood scripts, your patterns from childhood. And then it's really like your ancestors are off to the races. And that's the phenomenon. If you've ever been in a relationship and had fights, that's when all of a sudden the fight goes from 0 to 60. And you are, ready to knock the other person's block off, right? And you don't know how you got there. That's when the ancestors are really duking it out. And you've probably been triggered and you're not thinking clearly. I do advise people to stop in that moment and take a time out, walk out the door, lock yourself in the bathroom, get out of a moving car if need be. So, that's what those are our opportunities to cool down and then choose a different way of relating, a different way of reacting, right? Because, sometimes somebody is trying to hurt you and sometimes they're not trying to hurt you. They're just communicating to you. And even though that's triggered you, that's not really on them as much as it's on you to manage that trigger. Um, and those are the most difficult situations. Those are the hardest and yet the most rewarding things about being in a relationship, because when you can work through those triggers, and it takes time and it takes repetition, but when you can work through those problems, that's when you really build a foundation. And that's how you really build trust. Look, all of us can be jerks. But what you look to do with somebody is in an intimate relationship is to build a foundation of trust. You put your faith in the institution of the relationship, of the marriage, over your faith in the other person. And so, relationships, often people avoid relationships because they don't want to do their personal and psychological and spiritual work, right? I don't want to deal with it. Unfortunately, the more you avoid something, the stronger it gets and the more it controls you. So people who are avoidant aren't really succeeding at avoiding. They're actually accomplishing the opposite. But yeah, this is the forum that these problems come out and where we look to heal them, and we either find through the triggers with the other person, depending on how you guys can negotiate, whether or not they're teachable, whether or not the person is worth sticking with or not, you know? Um, in your case, you want to get your feelings cherished. So, you've got to see if that can happen with that person when you let your feelings be known. Nobody does it 100% of the time. And especially when you're triggered, you have to acknowledge that some of that is on you to do. Um, because, somebody could be triggered by a red light, that's not the fault of the light. There's some work for you to do in that. In fact, the stand-up comic and actor Daryl Hammond from Saturday Night Live, he had a very strong trigger associations with colors. And he wrote a book about it. There's also something on Netflix about it, but he had very serious child abuse and serious addiction problems as an adult, because the stuff that happens to us in childhood is just so powerful. So yeah, that's thanks for your good answer. Good. Okay, so I hope that, yeah, that probably explains it. Um, I try as much as I can to help people, and in my own life see those triggers as opportunities to desensitize. And sometimes it's just a matter of, all the emotions that have been suppressed and repressed just need to come out. And there's nothing really to do beyond that. So it takes some help, it takes some navigating. That's why I'm here. Nobody does it alone. Um, but yeah, it can also be so incredibly rewarding. And it's such a great opportunity to heal in relationships. A lot of times people think, oh, I should just be single and I'll just heal on my own. And then I'll go into a relationship. And there is a time and a place for that. But ultimately, we only really can heal in the context of a relationship. And I see you wrote, you did heal, but yeah, the relationship didn't last. It's in layers. You heal in, you keep like leveling up. As long as you're in a body, you have a chance to keep, healing and leveling up spiritually and psychologically. That's what I love about this work, is that if you stick with it and you stick with the rubric, you will keep getting triggers, which are opportunities for catharsis and for change. And some people in this room have already had a couple of those opportunities. And I know, obviously, because you're coming back, that you know how rewarding it is. So kudos to you. It's not always easy. It's not a painless process, but it is so, so, so satisfying, gratifying, and freeing. It really is the definition of freedom, to be able to be free from triggers, because the more free you can be from triggers, the more at ease you can be wherever you are, you know. I've had clients who go on vacation and they tell me they were never able to let down. They went, you know, all around the world with some guy, and they were unhappy the whole time. And so, you know, that's when you know that you've got work to do on the noise in your head. And we do that really by what we do in relationships, by cherishing our own feelings and respecting our own thoughts, which means becoming aware of them and then taking action on them. And that takes a little finessing too, and practice. Okay. Anybody else? Final thoughts, statements, questions? No? Okay. Okay. Well, I hope to see you guys soon. If I don't hear from you before next week, then next week. And you can find, if you're listening to this, come join us on Meetup, Chloe with Love and Relationships. And you can find a recording of this meetup on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Have a good night.